Hello, SAT students. This is Mr. Chu, and I want to talk about a couple of SAT problems, three as a matter of fact, in video 5, module 4, problems 13 to 15. So, as in the past with my other videos, remember I do have module 1, 2, and 3 already completed, several videos with 2 to 4 problems on each. Each module has 27 problems in it, and they are available in my playlist on my YouTube channel for student review. All of these problems have been released by the College Board to review for the SAT. Some are going to be easy for you, some will be hard, but most of them are based on algebra, geometry, and other math classes you took in high school. Topics vary from question to question. I do not list them based on their content. I list them in the order that they're put in each module. Like this video if it's helpful. Follow me on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and X. I got lots of math and puppy videos. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, and you can see more of my videos, including SAT and other videos that will help you in math. If you have any questions, contact me. I have an email address, askmrchu@gmail.com, and I will answer your questions for you. Let's get to the problems now. So make sure you pause this while you're trying to work it out on a piece of paper. I have a problem here. It says if x over 8 equals 5, what's the value of 8 over x? There's 2 or 3 different methods to use. I'm going to show you 2 of them right now, and I'm going to start with this method over on the right that I call method 1. So we can rewrite this as a proportion by writing the ratio of 5 as 5 over 1. Because 5 does equal 5 over 1. So I have x over 8 equals 5 over 1. I can rewrite this using properties of proportions. So here is the property of proportions I'm going to talk about. If a over b equals c over d, I can cross multiply these and get AD equals BC so that I can show you what this equals. So I can divide both sides by a. So if I divide both sides by a on the left, the a's will cancel. See how this a and this a cancels? And I've got d over 1 is going to equal to bc over a. Once I have that, I can divide both sides by c. And when I divide this d by c and this bc over a by c, I can cancel out the c's on the right. And I have another form, which is an equal proportion of dc equals ba. There's a property that you should have learned in algebra called the symmetric property. And that means that if 2 equals x, then x equals 2, which means I can take and flip the equal sign. So I can take and flip the sides of these. And so now let's apply that to x over 8 equals 5 over 1. So x over 8 equals 5 over 1. Look what happens. Do you see how in my original x over 8 equals 5 over 1? And we told you that a over b equals c over d can be written as b over a, we just reciprocal, equals d over c reciprocal. So I can say that this equals the reciprocals of each side. So x over 8 will be 8 over x, 5 over 1 will be 1 over 5. So that means that my original 8 over x would be 1 over 5, because I take and I flip this. And some people would answer this and would divide that out to get 0.2. So that's method 1, explaining some of the properties of proportions. Now, the reason we like to show you more than one way, sometimes one way is easier than the other, and sometimes one way will make more sense than the other to people. Well, you can look at this and say, what's happening in my x being divided by 8? So let's multiply both sides by 8, which is called using the inverse operation or the multiplication property of equality. So I multiply the left by 8 over 1, and I multiply the right by 8. That's multiplying both sides by 8. And the 8 cancels on the left and right. On the left here, because I have numerator and denominator, so x over 1 is going to equal 5 times 8, which is 40, which means x equals 40. Now I can substitute the x equals 40 into the 8 over x. So I go up here, and I'm going to put a 40 in the denominator, because that's what it says to do. So I put that 40 in the denominator, and then I can divide by the common factor of 8 over 8, which is 1/5, which is 0.2. Hopefully one of these ways was easier than the other, and you can use whichever way you like. On number 14 now, there's two methods for this as well. So I have two equations. It's a system of equations. The solutions to the given equation is x over y. What's the value of y? So we're going to start on the left and do method 1. And on method 1, you just have to subtract the second equation from the first. So there's my first equation. There's my second one. I'm going to subtract it. Now, some people can write it like this and subtract the 6x from the 24x, the y from the y, the 72 from the 48. But when I was teaching pre-algebra and algebra, I would tell them if we subtract each one, it's like changing that to plus the opposite of each one, which means then you're going to add down the negatives on each one. And that just seems to be a little bit easier for students to remember. So 24x minus 6x will be 18x, and then y minus y will be 0, and then 48 minus 72 would be negative 24. Now, you can solve for 6x. In other words, since it asks you to use this second one, and some students will say, oh, there's a 6x there, and if I divide this by 3, I'll get 6x. And that is true. That is one way to do it. So I divide both sides by 3 using the division property of equality, and I have 6x equals negative 8. Now I can take that second equation and substitute a negative 8 right where that 6x is. So I got negative 8 plus my y equals 72, and then I add 8 to both sides using the addition property of equality, and I have y equals 80. That's method 1. Now, a lot of students would not want to use that method because you're not solving for x, you're solving for 6x. So let's see what happens when you solve for x. You could, instead of, we still start out and do it the same way. When you get to the 18x equals negative 24, you divide both sides by 18. And the 18s cancel, and I can reduce this by dividing by 6 and dividing by 6, and 6 over 6 is 1, which means I divided by 1, so I've got an equivalent fraction there. And so 18 over 18 is 1x, which x equals negative 4, which is negative 24 divided by 6 over 3, 18 divided by 6. So if that's 4/3 now, you can substitute the x equals negative 4/3 in the second equation. So in this equation, I'm going to substitute x equals negative 4/3. And some students don't like dealing with a fraction. That's why maybe this method 1 would be easier for some people. Well, if you look here, we have a common factor. 3 goes into 3 once, goes into 6 twice. And look what you're going to get. You're going to get this same answer that we had over here that I just circled in blue. So the 2 times negative 4 is going to give you negative 8 plus y. We did over on the left. You add an 8 to both sides, and you still get y equals 80. Either way, whichever way makes more sense to you, you can do. So now let's go to number 15, which is the last problem we're doing in this video. So number 15, it says line T in the XY plane, so it's just in a coordinate plane. Line T has a slope of -1/3. So they give you the slope. It goes through a point 910. Which of these equations is true? All right. Now, there's multiple ways to do it, but the easiest way is just say, okay, I know that I can use the slope-intercept form of an equation, and I'm given the slope, but I'm not given the y-intercept, but I'm given the 0.910. So that will be my x, that'll be my y. So let's just substitute it in and solve it. So I'm going to substitute -1/3 and then 9 for x, 10 for y in this equation and solve it for b. And I substitute my m and my b and I've got it. So I put a 10 in, which is my y. So here's my y. You see the second coordinate is a y, so I put a 10 here. My m is -1/3, so I'm going to plug it in before the x, and the x is going to be 9, and I write it as a 9/1. So all I did was just use the substitution property of equality to substitute those points in. Now look what happens. I've got a common factor of 3. 3 goes into 3 once. It goes into 9 3 times. So you're going to have -1 times 3 over 1, which will be -3 plus b on the right. So I just rewrite that. So 10 equals -3 plus my b. I'm going to use the addition property of equality to add 3 to both sides. It crosses out on the right. I get 13 equals b. So now I have my slope of -1/3, my b of 13, and I substitute this in. So I get y equals -1/3 x plus 13. So I can rewrite that so that -1/3 times x over 1 would end up getting me -x/3 plus 13. Choice D. Hopefully you're able to get that right as well. So make sure you follow me on all the social medias so that you can keep in touch, see videos of my puppies, and then know what's going on and what's new with my math tutoring videos. There are 27 problems that are in the playlist for module 1, 2, and 3. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel and send me any questions you've got to Ask Mr. Chu at gmail.com. Help me spread the word. I want to help you with preparing for the SAT and helping you in algebra. I've got bare algebra videos. Geometry, I've got bracket geometry videos. Arithmetic and pre-algebra, I got tray arithmetic. I do have math minutes, which are short little problems, my SAT problems. I'll see you in the next video. I'll be ready to prepare soon for video 6 in this module 4. And remember, I'm Mr. Chu, and I want to help you understand algebra, geometry, and prepare for the SAT. See you next time.